And Xavier Helgesen with us today. Thanks for joining us so much.
Hey, great to be here.
So Xavier, let's talk about the beginning here, because this was in 2002, not that long ago, with two friends, and you guys just had an idea.
We did. We had a lot of leftover books around the apartment because our employed roommates had left, and we were underemployed teaching calculus to football players. And so we had a lot of time on our hands. So we took these books and tried to sell them to the bookstore, like a lot of students do. And the bookstore was like, these aren't worth anything. These are a little too old. So we took them back and posted them on half.com, which had just come out at the time. And lo and behold, we get these emails, $50, $60, $40. And we were making more putting books in the mail in the morning than we were going to work all day. Thought, wow, if you could just get a bunch of these books that no one seems to want in one place, you could do something pretty interesting.
So at what point did you take that idea, and your partner was Christopher Fuchs, I believe. At what point did you take that idea and actually say, okay, let's build a business model?
We weren't sure if it would work at first, so we had these friends at a community center in South Bend, Indiana, where we'd gone to school at Notre Dame. And so we said, hey, we've got this crazy idea. We're going to collect a bunch of books in partnership with you. We're going to run a big book drive at Notre Dame. But we know these are college textbooks, and your average age is 12, so you're not going to use the textbooks, but we're going to sell them, and we're going to raise a bunch of money for you. We just need your back room for about 3 months, and we promise that the books will be gone after people come back to school. So that first book drive, we collected 2,000 books, and our first day of sales was $5,000. And we were like, wow, this is something else.
And you guys just gave all that money to that book center, or how did it work?
The first setup, which was interesting because they were our warehouse as well as a good cause, we split the money with them. So we just took out expenses, and we said, okay, whatever's left, we're just going to split it with you. As we've grown the model, we basically said, okay, what is the value that our nonprofit partners provide? Clearly, they provide a lot of value. They give people incentive to donate books. They help get the word out and help recruit people. And so that's a cost we can build into our business model. So we don't give the money to literacy out of profits. We actually give it straight out of the gross margin.
Wow. Well, I definitely want to talk a little bit more about that business model. But how did you, the first thing I want to ask is, so at what point did you build the website? And where did you go to, and where did you get the money to start building that business?
Well, here's the great thing. So we actually bootstrapped the business. We didn't raise money for the first 5 years. It was entirely on cash flow, and we just built a really smart cash flow model, which was consignment. So when we took the books in, we would never pay anything other than the inbound shipping until a book sold. And only at that point would we pay a commission to Amazon or half. We'd pay the shipping, and we would also allocate money for our literacy partners. So because that all happened after the point of sale, as long as we could get books in the door pretty efficiently, we could grow the business. And it's not to say that we didn't put a lot of personal credit card debt out there, but in the grand scheme of things, it helped us keep very true to mission because we were 100% employee and founder owned.
And did you guys, at what point, start being profitable? Are you profitable at this point?
This year, we are basically about break even, which is where we wanted to be. We took $4 million in investment last year, so we've deployed some of that. So we had some losses in the first half of the year.
Through what type of vehicle? Private investments?
Yeah, it was a very unique deal, actually. It was the first investment that a group called Good Capital did, where they're explicitly blended financial and social returns. And one of the coolest things about the deal is that we took 5% of founder stock and actually gave it as stock options to our literacy partners, which is going to vest over 5 years. And so based on, number one, how well they do on literacy, and number two, how well they help us collect books. So the key is if there's any deal on the table, a merger, a purchase, an acquisition, our literacy partner is going to be right there next to us, negotiating it in their best interests.
So let's backtrack a little bit and just talk about kind of what the business does, because this is obviously you've built this really interesting model. But how did you begin to organize the logistics? Oh,
so we're lucky because my co-founder Chris and I are both really engineers at heart. We like to think through these things, and we really enjoy it. So I think the first purchase we made as a business was a barcode scanner. And we started building all this crazy software very early on to price our books and get them all the way out there on the web.
Now they have $1 million business. Xavier Helgesen, we're talking Better World Books. You're watching Venture. Welcome back to Venture. I'm Chris Valerio. We are talking Better World Books. The co-founder, Xavier Helgesen, very interesting business model that we were talking about just a few seconds ago. But let's backtrack again. We were talking about what this company actually does. So give us kind of the line of production, of logistics that happens with what you guys do.
Great. Well, so the life of a book starts, maybe you're moving and you're cleaning out your apartment and you've got some books to give away, and so you take them down to, let's say, Brooklyn Public Library. And Now, Brooklyn's one of our partners, so any books they collect that they don't need for their individual collection, which is most of them, they go on to us, and they say, hey, sell these on our behalf. We get a share of the money whenever you sell it. A literacy program we pick gets a share of the money, and there's no cost to us. So these are the books then that customers see on betterworldbooks.com when they are shopping for books. They'll see books from Brooklyn Public Library. They'll see books from a book drive at Ohio State for Books for Africa.
How many? You guys have 1,000 libraries, I think, nationwide, 1,600 college campuses?
Yeah, probably even a little north of that these days. So it's a really wide reach, and it's everything from super small campuses to the biggest
So you give a percentage to the library or to the school.
Yeah.
You give a percentage to the charity, and we'll talk about those charities in a second. Yeah. And then at what point, where is y'all's take?
We basically take the difference between the percentage we give them, our costs, and whatever's left over, of course, is our gross margin.
So how is that cost structure? What are we talking? Is it the transportation? Where does your biggest overhead come from? And I know you guys actually have 89 employees. Is that correct right now?
No, we have over 200.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we have over 200. So this is a labor-intensive business. There's no question about it. So every week we take in over 200,000 books right now. So you think of that as about 3 or 4 Barnes & Noble superstores every week come through our warehouse, and instantly those books are either put up for sale, they're donated, or if we can't find a home for them, they're recycled. So the books we push out, we also ship about 10 or 15,000 a day. So we have a lot of work bringing them in. We have a lot of work putting them out. Inbound shipping, outbound shipping are the biggest expenses
at this point. And so you mentioned the recycling thing. What percentage, I guess, first off, what percentage of the books that are coming in are you actually able to sell? And what percentage do you have to recycle? Or I guess that would be the only
Great question. It's about 50-50. About 50% of the books we can find someone who wants to buy it, some price. It may not be very high, but some of the books are very high. It really depends.
How do you decide?
Software. So whenever we touch a book, the first thing we do is scan its barcode, and our software predicts whether we can sell it or not.
Is it a proprietary software system?
Oh, yeah. It's all home built. That's probably the single biggest key to our success is the homebrewed software, and real-time pricing is probably the most interesting part of it. So we price all of these books on 18 different marketplaces. So we keep about 30 million prices current on the internet at any time. So we price the books in yen, in pounds, in euros, and we ship all over the world.
So how do you decide those pricing points? I mean, you're saying that's the software that's deciding the pricing points?
Yes. Yeah, so what's really cool is the old way to price a used book was take 75% of the new price and write it in the margin and put it on the shelf. But with the internet, you've got to be competitive with anybody else out there who's selling the book. And you've also got to maximize your profit. So sometimes you don't want to be the cheapest price on the internet. So the software handles all of that. Basically, it's algorithm driven. And our analytics team kind of takes a high-level approach, and they say, okay, we want to push some more textbooks. We're not selling this group quick enough. And the prices ripple through. So we pull data in from the web, from all these different web services and websites, figure out what the market price is, figure out how many copies we have, and then set the price accordingly. So
you go back to so you guys are in college. Y'all do that first model here. You start building the business. So how did you decide that to start that analytics side of the team? How did you decide, and where did you bring that in? And how did those initial, I mean, that's got to be huge, that proprietary system that you have.
It is. I had a tech company, a tech startup before we did this, so I had a little experience building software, building programs, and we actually went out on the web and found this Russian programming group that would build on my spec for $10 an hour. And so even in the very early days, we were able to afford to have some programmers implementing. And I mean, the first versions of the software were horrible, but we just kept after it. And I mean, we've put probably 80, 90 man years into the software at this point. So it's super, super complex, super tuned to our business. So whenever somebody has a good idea on the floor, we use the Toyota production system, Lean Sigma, and so whenever somebody has a good idea, that can actually ripple back through the software, and we can optimize the whole process. And
this is patented, I'm assuming. You guys have patented it. Have you ever thought about going out and renting it or selling it?
That's a great question. There's a company called Indaba Systems that is actually a joint venture we formed that does exactly that. So you can go to goindaba.com and check them out.
The ever entrepreneur. They always advertise on this show. Well, here's a question then. Is that under your banner of the Better World Books company, and is that a source of profits that's helping also out with the social side of it?
It is, because I mean, the most important thing we can do to support the social side is run a profitable business. Everything else comes off of that.
And we're going to talk more about it. Stay with us. You're watching Venture. We're talking Better World Books with a very interesting business model. Welcome back to Venture. I'm Chris Valerio. We're talking with Xavier Helgesen, one of the co-founders of Better World Books. We were just talking about your proprietary system and kind of how it's organized. It's all in an Indiana warehouse. Why did you guys decide to have it there? Obviously, you're from Notre Dame. And
yeah.
What led you guys there? Because your actual headquarters is in Atlanta.
It is. It is. And we run a business plan competition early on in our history. It was a social venture competition. And one of the judges became a mentor and then eventually a CEO of the company very early on. So he's an experienced businessman. He lived in Atlanta. So he said, hey, I want to be CEO, but I'm not going to leave Atlanta. So we kind of built a foundation of a corporate office around that. And so we've kind of grown it. So most of the corporate team is in Atlanta, but then all of our tech people, our analytics people, and all the operations is in Indiana.
Are there challenges to growing so fast, and space-wise there as well? And I mean, just everything.
I mean, growing in the early days, we were growing 300% a year, and I mean, we're still. Last month, we grew 100% year over year. So it's a huge challenge. Everything that worked when you had 500,000 books breaks when you have 2 million books. And so we've rewritten the system to scale again and again and again. And also people. We're very lucky to be in a company that provides meaning along with stock options and along with fast growth. And so that's attracted some really top quality people that a business our size normally wouldn't be able to bring in. Let's
talk about that meaning side. So first off, why did you guys decide to include this as part of this business?
It was a combination of design. So we knew that the core of the business was going out and asking people to participate with us. We couldn't just build a product and sell it.
And remind our viewers again, this is giving books.
Yes, so we need people to give books, and we need to be very ethical and very transparent with our literacy partners. But in addition, this was our founders' kind of values. We wanted to make a change in the world, and we wanted to make a difference, and this was so critical to us. And what we found that was really interesting is once we were committed wholeheartedly to it, we found more customers willing to come to us. It differentiated the brand. More partners willing to partner with us.
You had some big names, correct?
Yeah. We've had some huge names, and we have great ties with some of the top internet companies. Like we work with Amazon, work with eBay, work with Google. And it's great to be able to do this. And in addition, we've had executives join us from Cisco, from Earthlink, from some other pretty successful companies.
And what do those executives join you for? What are they doing with you guys?
One is a CFO. Paul's really a top-notch CFO. We just hired a VP of marketing. He's had a very successful career, and a lot of them say this. They say, I've always wanted to change the world, but I mean, I've got a family to feed. I've got a certain quality of living, and so trying to be able to do this. I mean, we can't pay Wall Street prices, but we can certainly pay more than most nonprofits.
By the end of last quarter, the first quarter of this year, you guys had raised $6.1 million for your nonprofit literacy partners, donated 1 million books to partner programs. How did you decide on those 5 charities that you chose? And just to mention them: Books for Africa, Room to Read, World Fund, National Center for Family Literacy, and Invisible Children. Those are your 5 literacy partners. So how did you decide on those specific charities?
Well, so getting to the root problem is 1 in 7 people in the world can't read. So this is a huge problem. And our long-term business strategy, I may sound a little glib, is actually to teach the world to read. And we believe that's not only a good thing to do for the world, it's a great thing to do for the book business. And so in order to do that, we needed to find groups that had models that could scale. And if our customers, chose to support us and we had money that funneled through to them, we needed to be sure that they were really making a difference. They were putting books in the hands of kids. They were sending girls to school. And that's really what drew us to these organizations.
What do you think is that idea? How much do you think that value added has increased your customers, increased your profits? If you could put a number to it, I mean, do you guys actually try to put a number to it?
It's just so built into the business, but I can tell you the fastest growing part of our business is our direct website. So more customers coming straight to us because, hey, not only are we a good cause, but we're also a good deal. And that's the other thing, right? There's maybe a few people who'll be martyrs, but to reach the broad audience, you need to be a good deal.
Xavier Helgesen, one of the co-founders of Better World Books. You're watching Venture. Stay with us. Welcome back to Venture. I'm Chris Valerio. We are talking with Xavier Helgesen, one of the co-founders of Better World Books. And obviously one of the main focuses of your company is not only to make money, but also help the social side of things. But you guys are also pretty green. I was reading on the website that every order is shipped carbon neutral with offsets from carbonfund.org. What does that mean?
What's cool about that is that it's another market-driven mechanism. So it's not us just paying money out of profit. It's actually saying, hey, we work with Carbon Fund. We figured out the carbon imprint of shipping a book. So we work that backwards and put it in the shopping cart. You can uncheck it if you want, but it's usually only like 3 or 4 cents a book. So most people leave it in there. And we were able to plant a tremendous amount of trees. It was tens of thousands of dollars raised last year just from, adding those pennies to the shopping cart.
And what's the cost to you in doing that?
Nothing. We just pass it through. So our customers pay a few extra cents on their order. We just pass it through.
What we were talking about, just the percentage of books recycled. Is that a pretty good revenue source, recycling those books? I mean, is it actually a significant one? It
was until the market collapsed in recyclables. It's crazy. We used to be paid very well for our recycled paper, and no more. Now it's a break even. They take it away and they don't charge us, but we don't get paid. So.
You guys said you think you're going to break even this year. Do you think you will be profitable next year?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We spent a ton on technology, and that's depressed profitability. But we've gotten to the point where we're saying, hey, we're going to grow up. We have a great CFO now, and he's really pushed us in that direction.
One of the things that has really increased is kind of the traffic to your website. You mentioned that. It's about 107%, I think, in the first 9 months of your fiscal year. And you mentioned where's the traffic coming from? Are you guys doing marketing? How's that working out?
We're very lucky that a lot of it, our top source is Google. Our second top source is word of mouth. So we have a ton of people coming through, clicking on both paid ads and natural search. So we've really developed a core competency in that. But we get great recommendations. Our Net Promoter Score is one of the highest in the business, actually higher than some other online book sites. And
How much is your Google bill every month for those paid ads?
I don't want to say, but it's not small.
It's big. What about all the social networking sites and just kind of attracting that type of audience? I mean, that marketing, does that marketing money go pretty far?
The great thing is it doesn't cost us, other than the energy. We have 13,000 Facebook fans. We have huge conversations. I'll give you a great example. We won the Business Week Most Promising Social Enterprise Award, and it was an online vote. So what did we do? We went out to these 13,000 fans and said, hey, it'd be great if you voted for us. And we got like 36% of the vote out of like 25 entrants.
Let's talk about the business of books, because that's one thing you mentioned. You said you think that this is not only good for the social cause, but also good for the book business. It's obviously having a very hard time. Actual bookstores, Barnes & Noble's down 4% in the first quarter, but it was down 29% the year before. What's your outlook for this industry?
I'm still very bullish on the printed book. I think used books is the right part of the market to be in, because we're cheaper than an ebook in the first place or any other. I think people are hurting, but used books are a great deal. The book industry in general, if you look at the world, the more educated someone is and the more financially secure they are, the more books they buy. Most of the world, and the people we're targeting with our literacy programs, are probably not going to buy a book online in the next 10 or 20 years. But if you think about it, if more of those people came up to the level that you and I enjoy, there'd be a lot more book buyers in the world.
And that is part of what his business is based on. That was Xavier Helgesen, co-founder of Better World Books. Join us more next week for Venture. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm Chris Valerio.